Aya. So she said, I am Joshua Sutterfield, and indeed I am, Cultural Education Coordinator. So today I am going to talk to you about the origins of Myaamiaki Eemamwiciki, the Miami Awakening. Eemamwiciki means they awaken. One of our elders, Sammy Darling, coined the term awakening to describe the community revitalization effort, which began in the 1990s. So we use it here as a metaphor for community rebirth, renewal, and empowerment. It's from this original idea of Eemamwiciki, they awaken, that the Miami tribe's language and cultural programs emerged. This effort was and continues to be necessary because many aspects of our community have been weakened from the history of land and population loss and community fragmentation. The Myaamia effort is the home of all of our cultural education programs that are now truly focused on community revitalization. As I said, it started in the mid-90s when our leaders were looking into a sort of cultural void, and we had no financial means to address this void. And so they took a leap of faith, and they passed Resolution 9615 to start our first language program. And the tribe submitted for what we call an ANA grant, Administration for Native Americans. And indeed, this would bring the first steps towards our language and cultural revitalization program and our communal revitalization. Now, I say a leap of faith because the grant called for fluent speakers. And unfortunately, our language had fallen dormant for quite some time, actually. But with a little bit of work and our own definition of fluency, the grant was submitted. Through the grant, which was submitted by our tribal librarian at the time, Karen Alexander, Julie Olds took the first step towards the creation of our Cultural Resources Office when she accepted a small position at the time when we were thinking of tribal language clerk. But little do we know that this small position would become what it is today. She was asked to contact two people. And through this, these three individuals came together for the first time. Julie, Daryl Baldwin, director of the Myaamia Center, and Dr. David Costa, all who possessed unique skills and interests that would serve as an important spark for what would become a successful language and cultural revitalization effort known as Myaamia, or the Miami Awakening. Indeed, that spark became a flame and then a roaring fire. Daryl and his wife Karen began their own revitalization efforts in the home in the early 1990s after the birth of their second child. And they made the choice to homeschool in order to incorporate that language into their curriculum. Later in 1997, Daryl decided to pursue an education in linguistics through a master's program at the University of Montana. He credits this training as a major help in the better understanding of our language, especially in those linguistic things like phonology, morphology, and syntax. But he also stated that this education made it possible for him to work with Dr. Costa on a different level when they started to begin the reconstruction process of our language. The two met early in the 1990s when David was doing his PhD work. Dr. Costa has been researching the language since 1988. And he's made trips to both Oklahoma and Indiana in the beginning and continues to do so. What he found was a lack of speakers. It kind of came out that what was revealed, we had semi-speakers up until about the late 1980s in Indiana. But what was very clear was there was no audio, no sound recordings of our language. But what was found was this enormous amount of unpublished archival materials, specifically French Jesuit materials from the 17th and 18th century up through the 19th and early 20th century that served as a basis of a lot of the research. David finished his dissertation in 1994, and lucky for us, he continues his work today. 97 was a big year for another reason. Through the grant, we had to publish. And so we got our first publications. Many of you probably remember this little blue dictionary. And this was a result of that ANA grant. So we saw our first one. We also saw our first language camps. It's a little tough to see. These, again, began in that summer of 1997. And then the effort was just off and running. And it didn't take long after the first couple of camps, the tribe saw the need for more extensive effort and a means to manage it. Language learning at the community level is in fact a social movement, and it entails capacity building that leads to infrastructure change. And so the Cultural Preservation Office, which is the precursor to the Cultural Resources Office, was born in the late 1990s, 98, 99. And something else happened in 1998, and some of you might not realize this, but for over 20 years now, we've been getting the newspaper. So we've been getting our news and information, I'm not gonna say that, I'm not gonna work, from our newspaper. So we should say happy birthday to 20 years of our newspaper. So the Cultural Preservation Office was the precursor to the Cultural Resources Office, which got its official name change in 2000, 2002. And I've been told that the reason for the name change, it was simple, and it was based in thinking. What I mean is think about the word preservation. What do you do when you preserve something? Put it on a shelf for another day. That's not what we were doing, and it's not what we wanted for our language and our culture. We wanted it to be a resource for our people. Hence the name change. And in order for that to happen, the CRO, the Cultural Resources Office, they would need help, mostly in the form of research and development. And in 2001, the Myaamia project, now the Myaamia Center, I should say the Myaamia project, sorry, now the Myaamia Center came to life with the mission to advance the needs of the Myaami tribe with emphasis on Myaami language, culture, and history. And it's focused on deepening Myaamia connections through research, education, and outreach. Immediately they started to produce, and the tribe started to put out more publications, including an audio CD, a kids curriculum, and throughout the years, the center has provided much of the research and data for all of those language booklets that we love so much. This is from 2010, and so we put out several more since this, including one of our first calendars. This was our first one, a poster calendar in 2009. This quickly became part of our language and culture learning effort, and you see some youth here drawing some of the things that come up to mind when you hear some of our moon names. We've since gone to the kind of standardized flip calendar in 2010, and I don't believe we've missed a year since. In 2013, the Myaamia project became the Myaamia Center, gaining a new elevated status at both the university and national levels. And in fact, the center is internationally known and has become the focus of many conversations regarding revitalization projects. The center continues to conduct research to assist the Myaami tribe's educational initiatives aimed at the preservation and perpetuation of language and culture. The center also emphasizes exposing undergraduate and graduate students at Miami University to tribal efforts in language and culture. The Myaamia Center is directly supported by both the tribe and the university. But besides research and development, the center has another very important function. It's a gathering place and a home base for tribal students. This is a picture taken from a retreat that happens at the beginning of each school year. This is this year's squad, if you will. Through the Heritage Program, tribal members participate in a series of classes that immerses them in language and culture. What also occurs is these groups and the center staff become a lifeline and a support system that aids in the success of our students. And nobody actually knows this better than me. I got the privilege of taking part of this myself from 2001 to 2007 when I was there in the anthropology department and the geography department. And since 1991, we have graduated 76 tribal students. The center also hosts the Myaamiaki Conference, and in March 2004, we saw our first one. These highlight work being done on Myaamia language, history, culture. These are biennial events every 2 years. And last year, the center hosted its 8th conference. Let's go back in time a little bit. I said that the first camp started in 1997, and it continued to this day. But in 2001, they took a little bit of a focus. They wanted to include more cultural context for what was being taught. Many of you might remember going to the tribal farm and planting corn with Mildred, our elder Mildred Walker. This, I believe, was a little bit before the time my mother and I started coming up on our yearly visits. For the corn, I know we were there for this. Mom says we were there. We did get to harvest La Ninja, milkweed, with her in 2004 as well. One of the things I've always enjoyed about our camps, and now our summer experiences as well, is it's the age range. In 2002, the range was 5 to 88. It's an amazing time and opportunity for that intergenerational mingling. We truly do learn from each other at all ages, and this brings in fun in all forms, including one year when they turned Little Red Riding Hood into Myaamia and performed Little Red Riding Hood in our language. The youth has always been a major part of our effort, and the tribe definitely saw an opportunity to capture the momentum of the interest of the youth and a need for more robust programming. So in 2005, the tribe hosted its first A1 Zapata. Well, we've been doing our summer programs for quite some time. This took place at the cultural grounds on the Lavity allotment, which is part of my family's group, so I'm always happy to be able to say that. This program brings in roughly 25 youth ages 10 to 16 every year with counselors and teachers with the goal of creating immersive cultural experience. And in 2015, we added another program. We saw another need, ages 6 to 10. So we have A1 Zapata, and now we have Sakajoeka, which has been going on for a handful of years now. This truly shows the growth of our efforts and the interest of our youth. We always eat. We eat lots of food. I don't know if you can tell that through here is Myaamia Tawengi. So when you are at the summer experiences to get your food, you have to order in Myaamia Tawengi to get that dish. They do some planting. There's some gardening that gets done. One year they planted, I believe I heard this called a digging stick at one time. They were planting corn, Myaamia Minjepe, our own Miami corn. This is, I believe, the second summer program. This is the group from our 2002, I believe, summer program, or I guess it'd be 06, sorry, program. We run this on a six-year cycle, so every 6 years you come back to a different theme for the education. First we start with our homes, and then we have song and dance, then we have living on the land, which will be next year's theme. We discuss family and family relationships, earth and sky, and traditional games. So we rotate that. The Cultural Resources Office has now taken that same idea with our programming. So we're trying to incorporate that same thought to keep that consensus of knowledge and knowing and learning at the community level. Another thing we decided we needed to be able to take control of was archiving and displaying at a different level. So we started the Myaamia Heritage Museum and Archive in 2006, dedicated to educating all tribal citizens, but also the general public. And this is educating them, of course, about our history, culture, language, and the heritage of our people. I think some of you guys will be taking a trip there, or maybe you already have. It's located downtown here in Myaamia. We would really like to show off our Myaamia artists. We had an amazing show of Eugene Brown's work. He was quite the flute maker, and so we have brought in quite a few different tribal members to see his work and the chance to discuss even the life and times of Eugene. Very, very well respected and much loved elder of ours. We brought in a featured artist, Katrina Mitten, who is a amazing beadwork artist. And she was there to show people how to do some beadwork, to discuss beadwork, and of course, to show her off her art form. This typically, once again, brings in that opportunity of that intergenerational mingling. So you get tribal members of all ages for this. The museum itself has also got onto the 6-year theme. And so Eugene's was perfect. Last year was song and dance, and he makes lots of flutes. Maple sap, maple sugaring, has become quite a eventful activity for us, and people tend to love doing this year to year. I know we've been doing this for at least 10 years, if not longer, and I know some families have been doing this themselves. But at the community level, as a community activity, we've been doing this. I got to do it in 07-ish, I think, which I think I was here for this. And as you can see, some of them just can't wait. These guys drink it right out of the tree, which I'll admit I did as well. One of our most popular events, which you guys will see tonight, is storytelling. In 2011, we got to preview the storybook that is now out and available. This was a book that was 22 years in the making. And now today, we have a yearly storytelling activity. It's just become, once again, part of our community. We picked up that cultural thread and we weave it every year. We have some really great storytellers. They like to get animated and really get into it. Once again, it brings in tribal members of all ages. We get elders telling very young stories, and we get storytellers of all ages telling stories. This is last year's group, and you can see they have absolutely no personality. There's none. So I'm going to kind of wrap up by showing you a handful of other things that we are now continuing to do as a community that came out as a result of Myaamwiciki. Shawl making workshops. Ladies are learning to make their shawls. Really nice workshop last year doing stomp skirts. Had a really good group show up, and they made some really beautiful skirts. These things are amazing. Can't really tell from this picture, but you can kind of tell it's old. Bob Dowdrick came down, and it's been showing, we've been doing cordage, which is a type of weaving. You can kind of see better in this picture. A twisting activity of dog bang or sapa. So we do cordage workshops. I don't know if you can tell if this is in the back of the truck. It's cattails. This is something I really want to do. I have not had the opportunity for this experience. But gathering cattail and making cattail mats. I love this picture. I want to make my own picture. But I do want to do this activity, as well as this one. This is really awesome. We are making our own lacrosse sticks, and some of them are making really amazing lacrosse sticks. So we have a new method, and this is, I can't really tell, but this is just last year. Some of our, I believe these are MU students' sticks. We have ribbon work has once again become a major art form for our community members. The heritage logo that you guys have seen and are discussing is mirroring this idea of our ribbon work patterns. We even have a publication that came out a handful of years ago. And again, this brings in all ages, very meticulous work. It makes people really happy. There's always smiles on the face. Again, age groups. Everybody's always really proud of what they've done, and they should be. These are awesome little pieces. Every year during our summer gathering, we have a family day out at our Drake house. One of the things that people really love to do is take place in an archery competition. The competition can get fierce. People do want to win these things. One year we had the good fortune to have a longbow made by tribal member Jake Long donated for a longbow competition. And everybody wanted to win that one. We also do lacrosse skills and a lacrosse shootout. And then we just run into other activities that people enjoy. People started throwing tomahawks, and people started liking throwing tomahawks. So there's a tomahawk competition. As you can see, they like it. It's fun. We take our show on the road. So yearly now we go to the state of Washington, we go to Kansas, and we go to Indiana and do a language and or cultural workshop as well. This is Washington last year. I was lucky enough to get to travel with Jared and Doug Kakonge. Of course, we're going to learn language, and we're going to play games. That's what we do. I got the honor of leading a cultural workshop in Kansas, it's tough to see, last year, and we'll get to do it again this year, this is Kansas, and Indiana as well. This is a couple years ago in Kansas. This is neat. I really like this one. A couple years ago, Chief had kind of challenged our community, and we call it a Kimmo's Challenge, Chief's Challenge. And what this is, it's a 10-word, a 20-word, or a phrase grouping challenge. So you go through the line, like our youth are doing here, and you have to say the 10 words, the 20 words, or some sort of phrase. And we put that on our 6-year cycle as well. So the next one will be about living on the land, asking about food or plants and can you eat it type of things. And if you look real close, there's an adult there too. This is not just a kid's activity. Everybody is getting into this little challenge that was put out, and you get a lot of activity at these tables. And they get, once again, really proud. So you can see the different colors. That's where, depending on which challenge you accomplish, 10, 20, or the phrase challenge. So with all this hard work and this 2 decades of work that was put in, we decided to finally apply. It's really a self-nomination. So as a community, as a tribe, we decided to nominate the Eemamwiciki program itself to something called Honoring Nations. This is a part of the Harvard's project, and it's really about honoring outstanding programs in self-governance. So for us to go there and put out really this cultural effort was a little bit different. A lot of people are doing more of the governing type of programs. So our decision to apply, and we did this because of that result of the 2 decades of Myaamia. And the result is a community of engaged and involved tribal members. Myaamia citizens are now able to speak, sing, tell stories, play games, and for the first time in many decades are able to confidently say, Nila Myaamia, I am Myaamia. So this phrase speaks to our self-determination. It's an expression of our work to empower ourselves through knowledge and to express ourselves as Myaamia, the ultimate expression of sovereignty. We were selected out of 70 applications from 50 different tribal nations, and we got down to the final 6. It was the first stage, second stage kind of proposal. And at this year's National Congress of American Indian, Akima and others went there and presented a very short slide to the remaining panel. We got honors, so there's high honors and honors, and we did receive honors. And again, 6 out of the 70 people. What's really impressive, again, is this was a cultural effort, not a political side or a money-involved effort. I believe the reason it got noticed was the impact it has had, A, on the community, but then on the government itself. There's an impact on our leadership in the direction of governance, and it's obvious through all the support we've been getting for 20 years from our leadership, from our business committee. We should all say thank you, Mishinewe, to our leaders for that, because they constantly support our efforts. We got a nice little certificate. And this thing, did you guys see this earlier today? This is an awesome sculpture that came out as part of that award. And as I said, there were 5 others. There was an Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium that was up there. The Quapaw Tribes Agricultural Program. Sitka, I think is how you say it. Sitka ICW. It's about health and safety of children. There was an environmental program out of the native village of Kotzebue. I don't know if I said it right. And our program, of course. And then the Yurok Tribe's Wellness Program. So it was quite an honor to receive honors from the Harvard's Project Honoring Nation. And we should all of us should be very proud because it was the community social movement that caused the nomination or our application. Missionary, thank you.